6 years ago now, I started this YouTube channel because I moved thousands of miles away from friends and family, and I had always turned to knitting in times of like major upheaval in my life. And I wanted to share my maybe very niche interest in historic and vintage knitting with more people. I remember my first subscriber. I remember my first 100, my first 1,000, my first 10,000, and every single one on the path to where I am now. And I cannot believe it that I'm actually able to sit here and have a video where I get to hold up this plaque and say that I reached 100,000 subscribers. This is honestly surreal. Because honestly, who would think that someone who's interested in Victorian, Regency, 50s, 60s, 40s, 30s knitting and weaving, tatting, crocheting could get to this point and has the opportunity to make this their full-time work? I am absolutely floored. I have loved to craft since I was young. I've been knitting since I was 6 years old. I have always wanted to run my own business. My first business that I started, I created a GeoCities website offering video editing services when I was 11 years old. And so to be able to sit here and celebrate this with you all feels like all of my dreams have come true and continue to come true every day. I thought, what better way to mark this moment than to knit a blanket where every stitch represents a subscriber on the way to 100,000 subscribers. So we're going to move to my knitting machine to make a blanket to display my 100,000 subscribers plaque. I'm so excited. I did some calculations and my machine is 200 stitches wide. And at 200 stitches wide, I'd need 500 rows in order to make a blanket of 100,000 stitches. The problem with that is that when you have just stockinette knitting, it severely curls in at the edges, so it would be hard to try to display it flat, because what I would like to do is I would like to hang this up on my wall against a poster board where the blanket is tacked to in the background. The curling edges would be hard to display. So instead, what I was thinking of is using the ribber attachment on my knitting machine. And the ribber also has 200 stitches, so every row would be 400 stitches. And I guess I could do, that is a question. I could do a full ribbed blanket and I wouldn't have any curling edges as an issue. Or what I was originally sitting before I sat down here was to do circular knitting. So you can actually do circular knitting on the flatbed machine if you have the ribbing attachment. And so I could basically do a double knit blanket where it's closed on all of the sides and it's stockinette, so it's fully reversible on both sides. It's just double thickness. I think I want to do it in a way that allows me to appreciate my machine and the yarns the most. And I think if I did full ribbing, it does definitely task the machine a lot. Like, you need your machine to be really nicely calibrated and oiled and very well maintained. And it's not that my machine isn't, it's just that it's not new, and I've done my best to maintain it and to oil it and to clean it and keep it in good condition, but it has its quirks, and so I think I want to put it through a little less strain. So I think I'm going to do the option that works with my machine best, which is to do the circular knitting option. The next thing I was thinking about is what yarn to use for this blanket, and I think it would be really fun to see if I could use yarn for projects that I created over the years, and especially any that I could find that I still have remnants of along the way. It'd be great if I had some that really meant a lot to me, but any that I could find. And I think a really good starting point is this, which is Alpaca Cloud Lace Weight. And I had a more recent project in this that means a lot to me. I've worn it quite a bit actually, which is the Regency lace dress. Such a cool project. Like I said, I've gotten to wear it to quite a few events, so it's been really fun to experience wearing that. But an early on project that I worked on with this was to make Victorian era combinations. I hand knit those And deciphering that pattern was so hard, but that was part of the fun for me because I had no idea what it was going to turn out like. I had zero ability to picture in my mind what those combinations were supposed to be like, and the only way that I could understand what the combinations were going to turn out as, or how you were supposed to wear them, or how they were constructed, was just to go ahead and knit the pattern. So that was really eye-opening to me. I learned a lot from that pattern. So this yarn means a lot to me, if that makes sense. So this is a little bit of leftover. I might double it up because it is quite thin. Now we've got to get everything set up. So I think I'm going to do a practice round first, and we're going to dial in our attention in a little bit, make sure I still remember what I'm doing. My tube! Can you see how that's knitted around on a flatbed machine? Isn't that pretty cool? And then when I take off this bottom bit, that is closed. I'm going to go ahead and gather all of the different yarns that I can find from different projects throughout the years, see how much I have, see what gauge they're all even, and think about the plan for transitioning between the different yarns throughout the blanket. I have 5 colors I realized that I would like to incorporate into this blanket, and I think I'll talk about each one of them and why I decided on them. I'm sure I'm going to make plenty of mistakes, but that's kind of part of it, isn't it? And part of what I love about crafting this whole process is mistakes are inevitable, and so much of the fun of it for me is finding a way to work with it and keep going. Let's get 400 needles in working position. Okay, we're at the point of adding the first color, and I was between a few different choices, but I think I've made my decision. One of my unwound sweaters, this is a cashmere, and I don't know if you recognize it because I didn't use it ever by itself. I actually combined it with this other color. I'm not going to use them combined because combined they're too thick. And I knit up a cardigan. I'll put up the cardigan on screen so you can see what cardigan I'm talking about. But that cardigan was so much fun to knit, and that capsule wardrobe I think was such a fun project and really pushed the envelope for me a little bit to try different techniques on the knitting machine with my hand knitting. I loved working on that project. I really got the hang of unraveling sweaters. I learned a lot from that process, and I'm very excited to include this yarn. All right, first row with a new color. Let's see how it goes. Is it fed in correctly, or else this is all going to fall off? Oh, it's not catching. Oh, it's not catching. Okay, hold on. This is really going to go poorly. Hold on. Okay, I am so glad I was watching closely. Okay, I don't think I put the yarn in. I think now it's gonna catch. Crisis averted. Thank goodness. Or else, if that yarn didn't catch, all those stitches would have just fallen off the machine, which is definitely not the first time that would have happened, although also would have been the first time I would have cried about it. Okay, here we go. We're having some skipped stitches over here. So as I'm working on this color, I think I want to talk about what has been the hardest thing for me on this whole journey, and I think the hardest part for me was the transition of doing this just for fun to doing this as my full-time work. I know a lot of people say not to turn your hobby into your job because then, like, who likes work? And to be honest, my difficulty with work has always been the politics of a workplace and trying to motivate myself to do work that I fundamentally disagree with the reasons behind, if that makes sense. I like feeling accomplished at the end of the day. I like getting things done. I do like to do things and to work on projects. So I find it very fulfilling to work on my own projects, but I think that it's been hard for me because what I found so nice about doing my full-time work and then this as a hobby is that I had a really nice balance of technical work and creative work. So my full-time job before I was laid off, if you didn't know, was software engineering. So I went to school as a chemical engineer and I worked in the field for 3 years. And then I went to school again, nights and weekends while I was working as a chemical engineer, and I became a software engineer and I worked in that field for 7 years. And that was very, very technical. And I love being technical. I love numbers. I love data. I was a data engineer for a long time. I was back end. That is my happy place. But just doing all numbers all day was also dry. So I loved the balance of being able to do this stuff and fiber crafts and fiber arts and figuring these sorts of things out and working and tinkering with machinery and sharing it with everyone. And now that I'm doing this full time, I find that I don't have as much of the balance of the data side of things. And so I was I noticed that over the past year or two that I've been doing this more full time, I've been looking for that data in this work. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I've been looking for it in the YouTube analytics, and that is a recipe for disappointment, I think. If you don't know much about how a YouTube works or how the algorithm or any of this really works for running it, anytime you post a video, after about an hour or two, depending, YouTube will give you a ranking of how your most recent video is performing against all of your other videos that you've performed. And if your video is like 1 out of 10 by views, it'll give you fireworks on the page. So basically like an absolute brain booster, like serotonin boost, like fireworks on your screen celebrating you and your success. And you'll have green check marks, thumbs up, you're doing amazing, more regular viewers are choosing to view this video, like you are getting this like amazingly positive feedback loop. If your videos aren't performing that well and you get like less than 5 out of 10, then you get a lot of, it used to not be as nice as it is, but you get a lot of downwards arrows, down arrows, fewer people are choosing to view this video. It's not very positive and it can wear on you and it can wear on your confidence. And for someone who likes looking at data, when that data is reflecting or can be taken to reflect what value the work that you are doing and your creativity has, that can be tough. And so I have had to make a conscious effort to not do that as much and finding that right balance though, right? Because I do in a sense need to look at that because I do need to make decisions on what kinds of videos I should make because this is my full-time work. So I need to know what is sustainable for me so I can live and make a living off of this. But also this is something that I want to continue to show the passion and creativity. Now, granted, I will never choose videos that I don't like making because I have the luxury of a vast swath of passion and interests in this field. So I am never going to choose a video just because I think it'll do well. I have a list longer than 3 lifetimes of potential creativity or creation time that I can choose from, I think, for me to create from, but it just helps me try to target what I can maybe create and what I can do and what I can focus my video making on. That is to say, though, I still haven't figured it out. I still don't really have any idea of what I'm doing. One of my most recent, like in the last few months, successful videos was fixing my socks without darning them. And before posting that video, I was seriously considering deleting it. I didn't want to post it. I didn't think that anyone would be interested. I didn't think it would do well. And I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. So it's still very much a mystery to me at times. And so the analytics can still be really, really fun to dive into, but you do really have to sometimes put boundaries around it and kind of take everything with a grain of salt. So that has been hard for me. Like I'm still trying to find ways to satisfy that like technical data side that I really love sinking my teeth into without kind of demotivating myself completely, because the data is about my creative creations, which feels like an expression of my soul. So that's a little, it's very close to my heart. Do you know what I mean? So that can be very difficult when you do creative videos around things that are very close to your heart. The data analytics can be not the easiest thing to look at. Okay, let me finish up this color and then we will get to the next one and I'll talk about the next topic. We've come to the next color, and this one is the first video that I made on unraveling a sweater. This is that gray yarn. This is the other component that I put into the cardigan, I think, that I eventually knit. So this is together with that last sweater and then one more. I held 3 unraveled sweater yarns together. And it's the first video that I have over 1 million views on, which is just wild to me that I even have a video with that many views, because I am just floored that so many people are interested in some of what I do. I definitely don't want to be a broken record, but yeah. The noise you can hear in the background, by the way. Nutella. You getting yourself comfy? She loves that chair so much. Let's get this yarn threaded up to use as the next color change. As I'm doing this next color, I kind of want to, I'm thinking about the most unexpected things about the journey of the channel over the last 6 years. And I think one of those things is the friendships I've made, but it's also the most beautiful. And that is that so many of you have reached out and have been so genuinely kind and just generous with your time and your supplies and your effort and your input and your just everything that you could have ever given me. And I couldn't be more thankful. But I've made some people who I would genuinely consider a part of my group of friends now, which I never could have imagined when I started this. Especially, like I said, I started this because I moved thousands of miles away from my friends and family, and not gonna lie, I felt pretty lonely. So to make friends as part of this process was really lovely for me. And it doesn't help that I'm quite a significant introvert, and I don't know if it seems like counterintuitive or strange because I decided to film myself professionally, but I'm also quite like socially awkward and like shy. So it's just been such a like growth opportunity for me, and that has been a really, really big gift too, and I appreciate it so much. So yeah, I think that's been the biggest unexpected thing out of this whole journey. All right, let's get this gray yarn into my blanket. Okay, so the gray yarn was a little thick for the machine. I had to switch back to the first color, but we do have like a row of gray in there, but it did require a lot of finagling. That was a little iffy. We are on to this yarn. It is a sock yarn. I used it a little bit in making some of my many CSM sock making videos. I used it in some of my Hexie Puffs. I've had this out a few times across a lot of my CSM videos, and I think my CSMs are pretty core to a lot of the different videos that I've made on this channel, and I love my circular sock machines. I have the 3D printed one set up here, and I'm trying to find a place to have the metal one set up a little bit more permanently. The CSM project, especially the sock project, definitely makes me think of a lot of the socks that I knit all at once. That was a fun one, and it also means a lot to me because I knit some socks for a close friend of mine who unfortunately passed away, but she got to wear and enjoy those socks that I made for her. And it was actually her request to be laid to rest in them. So that was really near and dear to my heart. So this yarn will be put into the blanket as part of that, and to represent the CSM and Hexie Puffs and my friend and everything that comes along with it. What's also exciting about this edition of color is that we're currently at 246 rows. So with this color, we're going to be officially halfway. And at 50,000 subscribers is when I first started getting sponsorships that I would consider working with, let's just say. And because of the nature of earning an income through doing this full time, advertisement revenue is wonderful, but very unpredictable versus, so basically the short of it is, without the sponsorship income, I wouldn't be able to do this full time. So this is it represents a lot. So this is pretty huge for me, really exciting. So let's add this color. Not the greatest news. The blanket as it is so far is off the machine. I just couldn't keep the tension on it. The double knitting was already, I knew it was going to be a struggle, and it definitely was. Darn. Okay, so we're gonna regroup. That's okay. I will admit that I was a little frustrated, but it is what it is. Knitting with knitting machines is never a straightforward process. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take the rubber off of my machine, and I'm going to knit just across the 200 stitches, and I am going to knit 500 rows, because then I know for sure that I can manage the tension across this a lot better when I have easy access to everything, versus have it be hidden behind the ribbing here. That was really tough. Things kept on jumping off for me, so that was making it a lot harder. And I will basically re-spool this up and re-knit it up, but first use the rest of my yarn. I will see you when I've reconfigured everything, and I actually need to eat something. It's now dinner time. I've been at this all day so far, which is kind of fun. Okay, so I have some knitting back on the machine. I didn't realize until I was about 100 rows in that my tension is very loose, but I'm just gonna go with it. We're going with the flow. That's part of what this is. I have a new yarn to introduce, and it's this one. It was originally a bear yarn, and it is now a very, very light blue, and it was dyed with indigo from dyer's woad that grows here naturally where I live. Where I live, it is classified as a noxious weed because nothing eats it and it chokes out all of the native plants that grow in the area. And I went to a dyeing workshop that we have at our local art center, and it was so fun to work with everyone together, and everyone dyed such beautiful colors, and this is the one that I created. And so, yeah, I have been attempting to dye with dyer's woad and indigo and natural dyeing for years now, so I think that this is a really beautiful example of that, and a really, really beautiful bit of that to put into this 100,000 stitch blanket. And that was just row 500, with 200 stitches each row, which means that we have 100,000 stitches done in this blanket. Each one of them representing the 100,000 people that have led to my 100,000 subscriber milestone, although I am hoping that is not the end of it, and I know that we've even surpassed it at this point, and I'm hoping that we continue to go. We're not done yet though. I do have to put this on some waste yarn, and we have to do some finishing, but I think I will do that on my own time, and the next time you'll see me is maybe some beautiful finishing shots and finishing thoughts about my 100,000 stitch blanket that took 6 years and a dream to get to. And so here we have it, a blanket made up of 100,000 stitches to represent the 100,000 subscribers that made it to my 100K plaque. It's kind of fun to wear it as a shawl, which is a consideration for me to keep it as, because I was kind of going back and forth exactly how I'm going to use it now that I have it like this. I pressed it pretty significantly. You see there's still a little bit of curling on the edges. I did order some foam boards, so I think what I'm still going to do is I'm going to display it with the 100K plaque. I think I particularly like how this bit turned out. So if you imagine this kind of mounted on the wall with a plaque in front of it, I think that looks really nice. I'm very, very pleased with that, and I think it's so cool. I mean, I feel like if you spot this in the background every once in a while, if you're one of the first 100,000 subscribers, you can kind of play the game of what stitch are you? Can you spot a stitch and say, I'm gonna name myself that stitch? Are you part of the speckly sock one, the gray stripe, the indigo dyed from the woad? Are you part of the original combinations that I knit, or this incredibly soft cashmere? I mean, there are 100,000 stitches. I cannot believe it. This is an incredible visualization for me too, to see all of the people that allowed me to come here and to get this far. And I know, like, the other thing is I kind of wanted to keep it as a shawl or a blanket to have around, but I am also piece by piece working on the Hexie Puff blanket. It's a process, but it's a faster process because you all knit the Hexie Puffs for me, which I am so thankful for. I'm working on stuffing and finishing them, so that I think is the piece that I really want to have out on this chair or out on my couch as the display, and I think I want this blanket up as kind of the background for my plaque, which I think will be really nice and a really nice like reminder for me of what it means to me to get to this point, and what projects have gotten me here, and what work has gotten me here, and the passion that's brought me here. I think the other thing that's really big for me is that it's just continued to grow from here, and I don't think that I'll ever take that for granted because this is so niche. I think it's such like a specific and particular thing that I had so little expectation of this ever happening. So I am so grateful that people are invested and they stick around and they want to be a part of it, and I'm so happy and thankful that that's the case, and I hope that we get to spread a little bit more of the excitement in fiber crafts, and just in general, even if you don't participate in the fiber crafts, you know, facing maybe some frustrating moments in whatever you're working on and finding creative ways to move forward. I think that's the biggest thing. And one of the things that I think has kept me going through these videos too, and that's helped me a lot personally, is that I like to show polished things, and I like to show polished projects, and I like to show nice work, and I like to show ambitious things. But my life is not like that. I don't think that most of life is like that in reality. And so sometimes it's not been the easiest for me to show my more vulnerable times where I make mistakes, or how messy my space and cluttered and untidy my space can get, or how disheveled or unkempt I can look, or the mistakes that I make in a project. But hopefully in showing that, and in showing how we can keep going, and how you motivate me to continue and to finish, that we can all work on things together that we didn't think that we necessarily could do or could find an ending to. In saying that, I have a lot of open-ended projects and projects that need finishing, so I could use the motivation, I'm not gonna lie. But I always appreciate the comments and the love and all of you being here and supporting me. It is definitely not taken for granted, and I really, really appreciate it, so thank you.
Apologies for the very abrupt cutoff there. We had a camera battery die on me right at the end, and I didn't notice until I came to the editing room. But I really do appreciate all the support and you all being here and getting me to this point and continuing to support me and continuing to grow. And I know I sound like a broken record, but thank you. I am beyond grateful, beyond excited, and I can't wait to keep going. I hope you enjoyed this little retrospective and joining me for creating this blanket. I hope to see you again very, very soon. Bye.